I remember my first year of teaching like it was yesterday. It was one fateful day when my principal came up to me and said, "Sandra, you are ready to have your own classroom, and starting on Monday, you are going to have your own kindergarten, first grade combined classroom of Portuguese bilingual students, and you're going to do great." Of course, yes, I had my bachelor's degree and I had interned at a school, but I did not feel confident. I felt nervous. I didn't know where to begin. And I spent the entire weekend crying myself to sleep because I didn't know if I was going to be a successful teacher or not, and I didn't know all that I needed to know to make sure that I could meet the needs of a kindergarten and first grade combined classroom. In this video, I'm going to show you some of the advice that I wish I had gotten from a mentor or another teacher to be prepared for my new classroom, to hopefully ease your anxiety and to make you feel more excited for your brand new position as an ESL teacher. Hi, I'm Dr. Hemphill, and I'm an ELD or an English Language Development Specialist in the state of Pennsylvania, and I have over 20 years of ESL teaching experience. However, I still remember my first year of teaching as if it was yesterday. I know all of the things I was nervous about and what I had anxieties about. All of the advice that I'll be giving you in this video are things that I collected over the years that have really helped me, and I have shared with other colleagues that have helped them. If you're brand new here, I want to let you know that I post weekly teaching tips for ESL teachers all around the world. And if this is of interest to you, I invite you to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss a weekly teaching video. I also want to let you know that all of the links to the resources that I mentioned in this video will be linked in the description below. So, my first piece of advice to you is to join a Facebook group. There are so many wonderful Facebook groups that are tailored towards new ESL teachers. And one of the ones that I highly recommend are Leading ELLs, Advocating for ELLs, and Colorín Colorado's ESL group. Why? Because there are so many teachers that are just like you, that have the same anxieties, that have the same questions. And believe it or not, even though I'm in my 20th, well, it's not 20th, I think it's 22nd year of teaching, I'm nervous. I am really, because there's a lot of things going in my mind, especially with the fact that we are living in a different time where we don't know what the fall is going to look like. We don't know if we're going to be in the classroom, if it's going to be digital, if it's going to be combined, and how do you prepare if everything that you've ever taught has been paper and in person? And what do you do? How do you start if you're a brand new teacher? So this is a great resource because you will get to make friends and colleagues that have gone through the road that you have, and others who haven't, that are brand new like you. And I think it will be a great resource and tool to ease your anxiety. The second piece of advice I have for you is to really take advantage as much as you can of professional development that is free, that is available all over the internet. And professional development can take different forms because it can be a webinar, it can be a conversation that you have with someone else who has more experience, it can be an article, it can even be a book. So I'll be listing some of my favorites in the description below, but I want to let you know that I've teamed with Saddleback Education Webinar for an ESL teaching series, and on Thursday, July 23rd at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be showing some fun ESL teaching games that have helped my students, especially my newcomer students who are brand new to the country and are very nervous and anxious about speaking in the classroom. And I think you'll really enjoy some of the, well as all of the other recorded webinars that have been done all throughout the summer. There's so much professional development that I've experienced across the years that have helped me to become a better and stronger educator. If you're interested in me making a video about professional development that has helped me, make sure to comment below. I would say my third piece of advice is to find a mentor teacher. Not all school districts provide mentors, and sometimes the mentor that you're paired up with is not one that is specific in ESL. I know it's happened to me, and it's perfectly normal because not all ESL teachers sign up to become a mentor. But don't be afraid to ask your principal if there is someone in your school or even in the school district that has similar experience. And if there's not one, maybe you can find one in the Facebook groups, because there are so many people that are willing to come alongside you and give you advice and help you along your journey. And be open-minded, and just know that They come with a wealth of resources, but make sure that you try to connect with someone who is positive and is not jaded by education, because there are some teachers that do have a negative outlook on education, and you want someone who's going to empower you, that's going to help you, that's going to guide you and give you all the advice that you need. But most schools are pretty good about helping brand new teachers get acclimated into their new setting. My fourth piece of advice is to ask your principal, what type of setting will you be teaching in? Is it going to be push-in? Will it be pull-out? Will it be self-contained? There's so many different types of model of teaching ESL. Will you be teaching across buildings? And don't be afraid to ask them what are the key things you should be focusing on throughout the summer. Because although your mind is going all over the place and you're stressed out and you want to do a good job and you're thinking about, oh wow, I want to have the perfect classroom and all the perfect supplies and so forth. You know, you have to be kind to yourself in your first year, and you may not acquire all of those materials. So be kind to yourself and just ask your principal what are the main things that you should focus on so that you're successful and that you're not feeling as overwhelmed in your new teaching position. My fifth piece of advice kind of lends into my advice in number 4, is to really be kind to yourself and just try to focus on one thing, that one main thing in your first year of teaching. You know, I think what I did is that I compare myself to more seasoned teachers, and I would go into their classroom and say, oh my goodness, I want that, I want this, I want to do that. It's perfectly natural, but you really want to focus on one thing that you can really work on throughout the year, because even that one thing might be broken up into different components. So my advice in your first year of teaching is to focus on classroom management. And what I would advise is ask your principal or the assistant principal or the coach in your building to see if there are times where you can have a substitute cover your classroom so you can observe another teacher, so you can kind of get ideas of different styles and different strategies that they use for classroom management. Because with classroom management also comes with what are your non-negotiables, what are things that are really important to you. For example, for me, one of the things that's really important to me is that as soon as my students walk into the classroom, they go and they grab their materials and they go right away to their seat and they look at the board and look at the do now, so they know exactly what they're supposed to do as soon as they are settled in their seat. So think about that. Spend some time right now that school hasn't started yet to really contemplate and think about what are the things that you deem really important that are your non-negotiables, and focus on that one thing. And it may be classroom management. If you have that down, that's fine, that you can think about something else. But don't spread yourself into doing 2, 3, or 4 things, because you're going to get overwhelmed and less of the chance that you'll do them really well. My sixth piece of advice is to establish a rapport and relationship with your students and their families. Especially now it's harder because we don't know if we're going to be in the building in person. But one of the things you can do, if possible, connect with the building secretary or someone at your school to let you know if they already are aware of your class roster, and you can start making phone calls and connecting with families. If you have families that speak another language other than the one that you're able to communicate in, then there are a lot of interpreter services that are available that districts have. What I recommend is that you connect with your principal or the ESL coordinator in your school district to find out what are the services that they currently use to communicate with parents. And if you're not able to connect with them before school starts, don't worry. Once school starts, you're able to really ask questions to your students like, where are you from? What are your favorite activities? How are you feeling? Do you like school? You know, just really get to know your students on a one-on-one level is really going to make the huge difference, because they're going to be more apt to please you in a classroom because you have invested and taken time to get to know them as an individual person. Advice number 7 is to be flexible. For example, sometimes we have this preconceived notion about what the first week is going to look like, and we prepare lesson plans and we have our class sheet, seating charts and everything all in order. The first couple of weeks may be a lot different than we expected. For example, when I started for the first year as a middle school teacher, where I'm currently working at, this is my 5th year teaching there, in my mind I thought, okay, first week, I'm gonna start teaching and I'm excited, and because I had already met my co-teacher, but instead in my first week I spent it testing students and identifying which of the students in my building are potential ESL students. Some of them already came identified, but some of them weren't. So I spent more of those weeks just getting to know them, pulling out of the classroom, so I wasn't technically teaching in those first couple of weeks. So be mindful that what you think is going to be your first couple of weeks may not. And it's okay if you already have some great materials prepared, because those you're going to be able to use later down the line anyway. And I know that it's easier said than done, but don't stress yourself out if you haven't gotten specifics about what exactly you'll be teaching. I know for me, when that happened, I just went into different classrooms because as an ESL co-teacher and also as an interventionist teacher that I could pull out students, I just spent those weeks going in and out of different classrooms, introducing myself to students, because just as much as you're feeling anxious about your first day, so are going to be a lot of your students. Advice number 8 is be prepared that there is a possibility that you may be able to create your own schedule. And what do I mean by this? Well, usually the principal or someone on the team, the assistant principal or the dean, creates a master schedule for the entire building. It may not be set in stone what every ESL teacher will be doing in their classroom. So you may be feeling anxious, and rightfully so, because you're thinking, how am I going to meet the needs of all the ESL students in my classroom? For example, this past school year, I had 52 students on my caseload. So I had to be very strategic how I group them and how I was able to meet with them. I had to be mindful not to interrupt at least their core subject areas throughout the school day. If this is a topic that you're interested in terms of scheduling your day and how do you go about starting to do that, make sure to mention in the comment section below, and I'll be more than willing to either do a Facebook Live to just talk about your specific schedules, or just mention how I schedule students in the beginning of the school year. And my advice number 9 is to make time for yourself. Please, 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 I can't stress this enough. Be good to yourself. You know, I know that it's easy to spend hours and hours in the classroom in your first year of teaching, and you want everything to be right, and there's just so much that's going on. But make sure that you set aside time to do the things that you enjoy, because you need to feed your soul and you need to be good to yourself so that you're a better classroom teacher. Believe me, I know, but easier said than done, because I have gone through that in my experience where, you know, I have been guilty in my first years staying until 7, 8 o'clock at night. But I kind of wished that if I went back, that I would just focus on only specific things and not worry about the perfect classroom and have all the beautiful decor and things like that. At the end of the day, the students, what they're going to notice is your heart, how much you care for them, and that they're learning and growing, and that you're providing different and fun, engaging activities to help them master the English language. If you have any questions, or if there's something that I didn't cover, make sure to mention in the comment section below. I want you to feel that you can come to me as a resource. I'm always happy and willing to answer any of your questions that you have, and I know that you're gonna have the most fantastic year. I know that there's a lot of doubts and there's just a lot of questions about what August and September is going to look like depending on when you begin, but just know the first and foremost thing is to make the one thing, the main thing, and to really focus on developing that rapport with your students, getting to know the teachers in your building, as well as focusing on one main thing, whether it's classroom management or whatever it is that your goal is for that school year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for more tips, strategies, and resources for the English language learners in your classroom.